Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, a show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And UFC 323 is here, the final pay-per-view of the year. Merab Dvalishvili defending his title against Piotr Yan 2. And we also have Pantoja taking on Van in the co-main event. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
We got a stacked pay-per-view card to break down, and kicking things off in the early prelim opener, we have Muhammad Naimov taking on Mairon Santos. Carlos, who you got in this one?
This one I actually went with Naimov. I think Santos has got heavy leg kicks. He's got, heavy strikes when it comes to the punching department. Good ability to defend some takedowns. I do feel that Naimov can actually strike with him in the pocket. I think he's quick enough to get off first too, and that'll help him trying to get those takedowns. He's a strong guy. He's got good cardio. He could stop the fight either on the feet or on the mat, so that's something that Santos is going to have to be worried about if it hits the mat. Can I defend some of these submissions? Can I stop some of the ground and pound? And I just think that if he tries to take a little bit from Francis Marshall in the last round where he, against Santos, he tried to use a lot of grappling in that last round. If Naimov can do that, at least try to implement some takedowns, get him to the ground, some heavy wrestling, I think that's going to throw off Santos because he's not going to be able to just, swing for the fences and feel comfortable. He's going to have to watch out for those takedowns, and he's going to have to come up with another game plan. And I think, although Francis Marshall got screwed in that fight, I do think that if Naimov uses it, that could be his way to victory.
Yeah, I was interested to see who you picked for this one, actually, because I really flip-flopped on this one. I thought about taking Naimov. I'm actually going to go with Santos, though. I agree with you that Francis Marshall decision was an absolute joke. He deserved to win that fight over Santos. Definitely not Santos' best performance. The Ultimate Fighter winner here, obviously a guy, Muay Thai base, good takedown defense. Naimov, Taekwondo-style striking, great spinning kicks, nice calf kicks, can mix in the wrestling like Carlos mentioned. This fight really just comes down to me, can Naimov take down Santos and implement that grappling game plan? I think Santos' takedown defense is going to be good enough here to keep this one on the feet. And we saw in his previous fight against Super Sadykhov that he was able to stand there on the feet, pressure heavy with the striking, and really just back Sadykhov up, land the more technical strikes, and ultimately win that fight by unanimous decision. And to me, that was an impressive performance, especially from kind of the stinker that he had in that UFC debut. Maybe put that one down to nerves. And to me, with Naimov, he's one of these guys that I think he's very talented. He's definitely very skilled. He's going to be the slightly bigger guy in this matchup. And if he can get the wrestling going, I think he's definitely alive as an underdog. But give me Santos here. I think the level of competition that he was able to beat in Super Sadykhov stands out to me. And I don't think necessarily a win over Bogdangrad for Naimov in his previous fight was anything to really write home about. Obviously, Khan Offley as well, not necessarily UFC level either. So give me Mario Santos here to get this one done. Pretty much with the striking, defend the takedowns, and ultimately win what I think is still going to be a close decision, but ultimately getting it done in the judges' scorecards. And next up, we have Ibo Aslan taking on Iwo Baraniewski. Carlos, who are you going with?
I'm going to take Baraniewski in this one. I do feel that he can stand with Ibo. What I don't know is Ibo's pressure in round one, where he's just going to come at you relentlessly and just try to get the fight done. Defensively, can Baraniewski actually defend against that? Does he have good side to side, good lateral movement, good hand placement for his guard to stay protected? When Ibo comes after him, is he going to find a way to at least shoot a takedown? And that's where I think it's going to be, where Aslan's over-aggression comes forward. I think Baraniewski is going to be able to get those takedowns a little easier now as round two, round three come about, if it goes that far, because I think when Baraniewski gets him down, he's probably going to be able to submit him down, on the ground. But what I do think is, I think Baraniewski hits hard enough to stay with Aslan. I think he hits hard enough to stand with him. I just think, why give Ibo the chance to stay in the fight? throw a couple strikes. When he overextends, take him down. Implement your ground and pound down there and look for the submission. So I'm going with Iwo to get it done.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what Carlos said to a T is how I see this one. Give me Ivo here. I don't trust Ibo Aslan. You saw that previous fight with Billy Elkanan. You know, he stood there in a position where he knew he was losing or the fight was relatively close. He showed absolutely zero urgency. Back-to-back losses now. He got taken down by Kutalaba. And I think that, like Carlos said, I think for Ivo, I think that's definitely a path to victory here. Come into the UFC debut, get those nerves out of the way. Let Ibo Aslan, kind of overextend on a punch, duck underneath, body lock takedown, which we've seen him have on the regional scene, and implement some ground and pound, beat him up on the ground, find a submission. I think that's definitely the easier path to victory here for Ivo. And I think for both guys on the feet, they can both crack. Both guys could definitely test each other's chins out here. And with Aslan, to me, he's not the more technical striker either. I like the more. I don't think either guy's technical. I just think Aslan's the lesser of the two when it comes to technique on the feet. I think if you add in the fact that Ivo also has the wrestling to fall back on here, and he will do damage once he gets you to the ground, I think all things point to the Polish gentleman here to get this one done for Ivo. And like I said, Aslan's just proven to me that he just doesn't show urgency, especially in that previous fight. He's standing there having a back and forth sort of sparring match there with Billy Elkanan, and he can't be disappointed with that loss. He left it all to the judges. He didn't do enough, and I just don't trust him to show that kind of urgency in a fight here against a UFC Dana White's Contender Series debutant. So give me Iwo Baraniewski here to get this one done, most likely with ground and pound or some sort of groundwork, whether it be submission or ground and pound. And next up, we have Jalin the Tarantula Turner taking on Edson Barboza. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Oh man, it hurts, but I'm gonna go with Turner. I like Barboza. Just been a fan for a long time. He's been in some wars. He's got the speed. He's got the power to get it done. Technically, he's not really the best fighter. Oh, tactically, his strategy isn't always the best. Defensively, he's not very skilled. He takes some clean shots, which is why in most of his fights, he's got to show a lot of heart and a lot of grit to come back. Now, that's the thing is now Jalin found he found the will to fight again. He wants to come back. He wants to leave retirement, come back, do his thing, and that's great. And I think he's going to get the better of Barboza. Number one, he's a little younger. He's a little bit more athletic. He's a little quicker. He's longer. He's a little rangier. But if this turns into a fight and this turns into a war, I can't see Jalin Turner being that guy to show the grit and the heart if he gets tired, if he gets hurt. But I don't think it's going to get to that. I think Turner's going to hurt him early, and Barboza's going to have a difficult time recovering, and he's not going to be able to get the shots off to defend himself because Turner's going to be so far away in terms of distance because he doesn't have to step in that close. He can pick you off from outside, and I think Turner's going to get it done that way.
Yeah, this one's tough to me because, as Carlos mentioned, obviously Jalin Turner coming out of retirement, always kind of question marks as to where the young man's head's at. Maybe he's been training and taking some time off to develop and get better. Still only 30 years old. Obviously 6'3" for the weight class here at 155 is huge. And Edson Barboza, we know exactly what he is at this point. There's no secrets and no other wrinkles to his game. We know that kickboxing, those spinning wheel kicks, obviously very tough, good chin. But 39, you got to kind of question, what's he going to look like at this point? At any moment, he could fall off of a cliff. So I am going to lean to Turner, but I definitely have my question marks for both guys here. I think Edson Barboza could definitely weather a storm early that Turner always presents a lot of danger, especially with his size and athleticism. I do think that Turner he's one of these guys where he has to be the hammer. He can't be the nail. So I'm going to pick Turner. I think he's going to have success early. I think Barboza's going to make it to a decision and Turner's going to win the first 2 rounds. Maybe Barboza hangs in there and has a successful third. I just worry a little bit about Turner coming into this fight, where his head's at, and also Barboza at this point with all the wear and tear he's had coming off 2 losses. It's kind of a tough one for me. I'm going to lean slightly to the favorite here in Turner, but wouldn't be surprised if the veteran pulls off the upset. And next up, we have Marvin, the Italian Dream Vettori, taking on Brunno Ferreira. Carlos, who you got in this one?
See, this one was another tough one, too, because, Vettori is just the type of guy that's going to walk forward. He's going to throw that jab. He's going to sometimes throw like a little low leg kick. He doesn't throw it hard just to get you looking down. and he's just going to come and throw his combinations, walk you down. But Ferreira's the type of guy that if you stand right in front of him and you allow him to hit your back, there's going to be a problem. Now, I'm not saying that Brendan Allen can't hit, but Vettori got rocked like twice in that fight. And I feel Ferreira's going to bring a lot more power than Brendan Allen brought. His punch is going to be a little bit more looping. They're not going to be as technically sound. They're not going to be as straight. They're not going to be as short. But I do think that Ferreira loves to attack the lead leg. I think he likes to, throw some big looping shots. So he'll throw around the guard. And I think he's going to try to take this to the ground, which Vettori's takedown defense is pretty damn good. And he's also very good at getting back to his feet as well. So I think just based on work rate and staying busy, I'm going to take Brunno Ferreira to get this one done.
I'm going to trust in Marvin Vettori, former dog of the week, let us down there against Brendan Allen. There's no secret in that one that Brendan Allen got the better of him, especially in the striking. And obviously Vettori was coming off a serious shoulder surgery. Kind of had to shake off the cobwebs back in here after 4 months. I think he gets it done against Brunno Ferreira here. To me, Ferreira shines on the ground, and when he can take you to the ground and mix in the wrestling and mix in the grappling, he shines. Good arm bars, we've seen that in the past, but recently he's been beating journeymen. He's not been beating guys high up in the division. This is his shot at a ranked opponent here, a higher ranked opponent here in Marvin Vettori. And I think when you go back and look at Vettori's losses, Brandon Allen, Roman Dolidze, Jared Cannonier, these are the top tier guys at the division. And Brandon Allen obviously coming off that victory that he had over Urania Dorito, obviously a high pretty much, if not a guy that was going to be fighting for the title soon. So I look at this fight realistically as Marvin Vettori gets back in the win column. He's going to be motivated here. I think on the feet, he's going to be able to kind of wear down Ferreira with more volume. He likes to, kind of fight behind the jab, keep the boxing very, very crisp, and realistically just, throw that low kick and not really mix in too much other than that. And I think with Ferreira, he's going to look to try to get this fight to the ground. He's a little bit undersized for 185, and I think he's going to struggle here against Vettori. I think Vettori's going to have all the success that he wants and needs here, keeping this fight on the feet, really just winning a unanimous decision. I don't see Ferreira being able to land a big, powerful shot and putting Vettori out. Vettori's probably got one of the most legendary chins so far in the sport. He could take a punch, and I think realistically he's just going to out-volume Ferreira, and he's not going to be able to get the takedowns here. So give me Marvin, the Italian Dream, Vettori. If he loses this one, I'm never picking this bum again. He's a bum, Rock. And next up, we have Chris Duncan taking on Terrance McKinney, T-Rex McKinney. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Again, we discussed it. This is a tough one because Terrance has been mixing in the grappling with his game plan lately. So I want to go toward him. And I know he's the type of guy that can hurt Chris Duncan and possibly jump into a submission or finish it with strikes. Duncan, though, out of the two of them, if someone's going to get rocked and come back, it's going to be Duncan. And if Duncan rocks McKinney, it's over. And that's usually how his fights go. So I'm going to go with Chris Duncan because he has been pretty smart about how he's striking. And if he gets hurt, or if he doesn't get hurt, he's been mixing in the takedowns very well. He mixes the strike. He mixes in the takedowns. He's looking for the grappling. He's looking for the submissions. He's throwing a little of everything, whereas McKinney has done that in his last couple fights. He's been trying to, but I don't know if he's going to be consistent. So I'm going to go with Duncan to get it done. Still a tough one because McKinney can come out and just be explosive and land one shot, put Duncan out, but we'll see. I'm going to go with Duncan. I'm not going to try to talk myself into McKinney right now.
I'm going with McKinney though. I just the thing that I really don't like about Duncan, I just think he's very hittable. Sometimes he doesn't have a whole lot of head movement. I think he's going to lack a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism in this matchup, and that's going to be his downfall. And I think with Chris Duncan that he has been on a nice run recently. Obviously the unanimous decision victory over Rombecki, obviously the nice submission win over Jordan Vucenic, and obviously the submission victory he had over Balaji Oki. I think he's looked good. His move over to American Top Team served him well. He looks more composed in there. I just think that Terrance McKinney is going to do what Terrance McKinney does. Like Carlos mentioned here, he's come in, he's attacked wrestling early. He's pretty much stuck to that game plan. We know with Terrance McKinney, and we've said it time and time again on the channel, it's no secret if you're a long-time fan of the channel or a long-time fan of the UFC. If you watch the Terrance McKinney fight, you know he is round one and a half or bust. If he doesn't come out here and flatline you in the first or a little bit early in the second, he's going to get finished later on in the second or third. And I think it's a tale of two fights here. I think Terrance McKinney comes out early, rocks Duncan, finishes him. If he wants to mix in the wrestling as he's been doing, I think that's on the table. Maybe he looks for a submission, but I think ultimately he comes in here, gets dominant position, and lands ground and pound. But I wouldn't even be surprised on the feet if he just beats Chris Duncan to the punch here and just is able to land something on the feet, hurt him, and ultimately finish him like that, just because I think the speed and athleticism here of McKinney is going to be too much for Duncan early. If he is able to weather a storm, I agree with Carlos that out of the two, I think Duncan's more likely to come back in the fight. He's probably got the better chin, and he's definitely the kind of guy that's going to be able to come back and land damage later on in the fight after kind of taking a licking in the first round. But I am going to go with Terrance McKinney here, the T-Rex, to get it done. And next up, we have Grant Dawson taking on Manuel Torres. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I'm going to take Grant Dawson in this one. Dawson's going to get in close range. He's going to strike just enough to get close, make Torres cover up. He's going to take him down, and he's going to be like human crazy glue, and you're not going to be able to get him off. And then the next round's going to start, and that's how it's going to be that way again. And then he's going to take him down in the third round if it gets to that, because that's how Dawson has success in the ring. Torres looks like he has the ability to scramble. It also looks like his wrestling at times, maybe it depends on certain caliber of opponents, he's able to wrestle back, he's able to stuff the takedowns, and then try to implement something standard. But I don't believe he's going to be able to do that to Dawson. Dawson's just very smothering when he gets you in the clinch. After he's got his hands on you, it's a problem to get him off you. So I'm going to take Dawson to get this done. Can Torres land a big bomb? He can. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, give me Dawson here. I love Manuel Torres. Great fighter to watch. Fan favorite. El Loco is exactly what you get prescribed when you see him on a fight card. My whole thing here is that he tends to overextend. He tends to be a guy that wants to, kind of throw caution to the wind, and he wants to run at you and throw punches and just land. I think that's a recipe for disaster here when it comes to defending takedowns against Grant Dawson. I think you can pretty much see in the Bahamundes fight that they had, Bahamundes stood his ground. Torres comes running in, throwing wild punches on the feet, and Bahamundes was able to counter him and catch him and drop him twice in that fight, and then ultimately get the stoppage. I think Dawson here uses the exact same mentality here. He lets Torres be overly aggressive, ducks underneath, that sets up his takedowns beautifully. And like Carlos said, once Dawson gets you to the mat, he's got great control. He holds you there. I'm actually going to say Grant Dawson finds a submission in this one. I think that once he gets it to the mat, he's going to be able to soften him up. Second round submission here for Grant Dawson. Manuel Torres is a very, very good fighter, but I think that his over-aggressiveness is going to cost him here in this matchup against Dawson. And the only way that I see Torres being able to win this one is that Dawson's chin has that whole Bobby Green effect, like it did in that one random fight where he got jabbed once by Bobby Green and got knocked out. I don't see Torres landing that one shot in the first round early. I think Dawson's going to mix in the wrestling here, take a lot of the power away from Torres' shots, and ultimately find a submission late in the second. And next up, we have Antonio Trocoli taking on Mansur Abdul-Malik. Carlos, this is going to be a short breakdown, right?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty short. I'm going to go with Abdul-Malik to get it done. Sometimes I guess this is the quote you like to use, by any way he wants. So I feel he's either going to punish him if he feels like staying on the feet. He's going to punish him if he feels like taking him to the ground, or he's just going to, I don't know, just by showing up, he's going to win. So Trocoli, he's not UFC caliber. He's not really a good prospect. He's spending a lot more time trying to get, some type of money from, what's her face? Oh my goodness.
Mackenzie Dern.
What's that girl's name? Mackenzie Dern. That's correct. So it's like, just stick to the fighting, work on your technique, and you might get better. I just feel he has the ability to hurt people and at this level, and I don't think he has the ability to control people at this level. So just that's the breakdown. Abdul-Malik to get it done.
Yeah, I like Abdul-Malik here to get this one done. I don't really see what threat Trocoli is really going to pose here. Obviously 6'5", big for 185, big reach, but Malik's the better athlete. He's going to touch the chin whenever he wants. And as to quote another Aaron Benjamin quote here on the Ground and Pound podcast, one-way traffic. I see it being pretty much all downhill here for Malik. I pretty much agree with everything that Carlos said. I just don't see a way that Antonio Trocoli is going to be able to win this one. This to me looks like hey, we'll throw this fight on the pay-per-view or we'll throw this fight on a pay-per-view card to get a guaranteed finish here. Abdul-Malik obviously going to that decision or majority decision, however it was formed against Cody Brundage, was a bit of a weird showing from him. He looked kind of a little bit out of it in the first round, but was able to come back there. Obviously, he's the better striker. He's the better athlete, and I think he finds the chin here of Trocoli. Even if he wants to mix in the wrestling, he can. Like I said, and like Carlos said, I think this should be one-way traffic, and I've talked way too much about this fight after giving Carlos shit that it's going to be a slow breakdown. So, and next up, we have Ziam taking on Nazim Sadykhov. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I'm going with Ziam in this one. It's a tough one because Sadykhov, he can be the aggressor if he needs to be. And defensively, he's very smooth, likes to roll with strikes, likes to check the kicks. And on the ground, he's also very effective. He's got very good jiu-jitsu as well. He's got very good top control. He does like to mix it up on the feet. And that's where I think if he can just try to take Ziam down, that would be a better game plan for him. Now, Ziam, either way, he's been looking very good on the ground as well. He can scramble very well. He fought Beast Boy Davis. He was able to scramble better than him, get better positioning. He's able to get back to his feet, and he's another guy that can hold you down. He's a good wrestler. He can take you down, and Ziam was able to either stuff some takedowns or get back to his feet and able to outstrike him standing. So I do think that the reach, the height, is going to pose a little bit of problem for Sadykhov. I think that Sadykhov can be the aggressor, but he does counter. And he's very effective countering, but when someone's not going to be there, and I think Ziam's going to be able to throw long and get out of range, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get to him that way. So he's either going to have to be the aggressor and try to get inside before he throws anything, or once you get inside, work the takedown, try to get him to the mat. But I can see Ziam also being able to defend against that very well because Sadykhov's wrestling is decent. He's got good takedowns, but he's not the best wrestler. And Ziam has been able to stuff some takedowns against some good level guys. So I'm going to take Ziam to get it done. This is one where I'm not sure because Sadykhov, he's somebody I'm very high on as well. I'm very high on Ziam, and I think this is going to be like a high-level fight, and I think we're going to see some good chess being played between the two of them.
Yeah, Ziam, obviously coming off of that cancelled fight where he had a death in the family with Fernandez. We were both looking forward to that fight. Obviously, both guys very high on both. Shame we didn't get to see that one. And we see fighters, who have a death in the family come back and have great performances, obviously very highly motivated. And to me, when I look at Sadykhov here, obviously the slight betting underdog, I think he's kind of the fake dog of the week this week. I look at him and I look at him as a guy who's kind of the pump fake dog of the week. You're getting plus money on a guy, he's obviously 11-1. He's looked great coming off that performance of the night against Nicholas Moto. But if you look at his past performances and his past fights in the opponents, you got Nicholas Moto, I'm pretty sure UFC, in terms of the UFC, has a losing record. Ismail Bonfim, the fake Bonfim brother, the guy that doesn't have a winning record inside the UFC. You've got Slava Claus. We know the decline that he's been on. When you look at Terrance McKinney, as I just mentioned, he's very much a kill or be killed guy. And you look at those performances, I kind of question it in the sense of, there was moments in the Nicholas Motta fight where you kind of thought, okay, maybe Sadykhov's going to get, chin checked here and maybe even lose. And he did well. He was able to show a chin. He's shown wrestling. He's shown levels to his game. But I think Ziam is on a real good tear here. And obviously that win against Mike Beast Boy Davis, to me, that was an impressive victory in how he was able to get it done. His wrestling's looked improved. He's obviously shown an ability to be able to strike in the past. He's very long, very rangy for the division. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here as well. And I trust Ziam here to get this one done, whether it be on the feet or the ground. And I just think that here with Sadykhov, that Ziam could stay at range and kind of just pick and prod at him and get Sadykhov kind of frustrated. As Carlos mentioned, Sadykhov's great at counter-striking, but I think that Ziam is a good enough striker here to be able to kind of force the opportunity here of picking and prodding at Sadykhov while he kind of swifts at air. Ziam's able to be the one to counter. But I will say, I do think that Sadykhov has proven me wrong in the past. He's obviously shown an ability to take one to give one, and he might be be able to dog this one out. So definitely not one that I'm high on, but I do think that Faraz Ziam gets this one done, mixing in the grappling and able to kind of strike at range. And yes, I know there's no fucking flag for Sadykhov. Haters in the comments. I need to have a word with our editing team. But next up, we have Maycee Barber taking on Karine Silva. The only females on the card. Carlos, who you got on this one?
I'm gonna go with Silva to get it done. Now, the thing is Barber going to be able to outwork her? And I don't feel like the work Barber to be able to do is going to look good to the judges. She is somebody that the UFC is pretty high on. So if she can do enough to look busy and it's a close fight, she's going to get the nod. But I'm going to take Silva with this because I feel that her strikes are going to be a little bit more effective. I think she's going to keep her outside a distance. Now, Maycee loves to come in and clinch and try to throw elbows, and if you do that with Silva, she's obviously going to try to take you down. And Barber doesn't really have the best wrestling. Now, I know she was working with Team Alpha Male for a while. I don't know if she still is, but whatever it is, she should still be working her ground game. But I feel that Silva is a few levels higher than Barber. So if it hits the ground, I think she's going to be in a lot of trouble, especially if Barber is on the bottom. She's going to have a lot of problems trying to get back to her feet. But if Barber's on top and she's able to, sweep, Silva's going to have to deal with a little bit of ground and pound from the top. Now, do I see that happening? Not really. I see Silva being able to take her down, possibly control her, and probably get the submission victory. But on the feet, Barber's tough, and she's wild enough to make it a sloppy fight. And the uglier the fight gets, the better she usually gets. But Silva can also stay in an ugly fight, and she can make it good because she uses long, straight strikes. So if she can keep a little bit of distance, I think she'll be okay, and I think she's going to land the more effective shots and the cleaner shots. So I'm going to take Karine Silva to get it done.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Give me Karine Silva here. I don't trust Maycee Barber. Her nickname, The Future, that's pretty much what she does with all of her fights. She postpones them to the future because she doesn't show up for them. So the way that I see this one going is pretty much just Silva. I see Carlos shaking his head at the corner of my eye. Karine Silva, obviously, a very, very good athlete, good wrestling. Obviously, she can mix in the striking as well. Moving over to fighting nerds, I think that's going to serve her well. Obviously, coming off a victory, getting back in the win column against Diani Barboza. I think it's an impressive victory. Diani Barboza is very, very skilled. Good judo practitioner that she was able to get the victory over there. And to me, I just don't trust Maycee Barber. Obviously, coming off of a year and 8-month layoff, had 2 fights cancelled. Rose Namajunas didn't show up for that one, along with the obviously the main event that was cancelled against Erin Blanchfield. I don't trust the girl. She talks a load of smack and then doesn't show up. She's got some sort of virus that I believe on the channel we made a joke earlier or in the year about her having herpes or whatever it was. I forget what it was. Either way, I don't trust her. Give me Karine Silva here. I look at this fight realistically as being a fight where I don't understand how Silva can be the underdog. What's Barber done to show you that she's ready to be in there with killers in the division, to get in there and scrap? She's obviously very, very good in terms of getting the fight to the ground and landing ground and pound. She's always looking to do damage once she gets in the actual cage. But I wouldn't even be surprised if this fight gets canceled. Give me Karine Silva to get this one done.
Hey, pull out of one fight, you're a bum.
Two fights, Carlos. Fool me once.
2 fights, all right.
Shame on. Next up, we have Tatsuro Taira taking on Brandon Moreno. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I went with Brandon Moreno to get it done. And basically, I think it's just because, as we discussed, he's the more complete fighter. He can fight on the feet. I think that although Taira, I think he's a little bit built a little bit thicker, so a little bigger for the weight class. He's very strong. He's a strong grappler, but I think that Moreno scrambles better than Taira, and I think he gets better position. And I think on the feet, he's going to have a huge advantage with the speed and the striking. Now, Taira, he can strike, but it's not pretty. He's kind of sluggish in there too, and he kind of throws like 1, 2, and then he'll throw like 1 naked kick. And if you do that against Moreno, he's going to try to capitalize and counter over that. And I just feel that I know we talked about it. Yes, they're the same height. They're going to come in at the same weight. I just think Tyra's going to be a little bigger. So that's going to be the one thing that Moreno's going to have to do is how am I going to stay away from the grappling exchanges? And I think he'll do just a fine job with wrist control, standing, pummeling. He's going to be able to stay to his feet. Once he gets on the bottom, I think he's going to attack the base, be able to get back to his feet, and he's just going to unload on Tyra when they're up there. So I'll take Brandon Moreno in this one.
Yeah, I look at this fight realistically as Brandon Moreno does a good job of scrambling. He's got the better boxing out of the two, and Tatsuro Taira, he needs you to be able to get this fight to the ground, or he needs to be able to get this fight to the ground, scramble, get into dominant positions, look for submissions, and ultimately he thrives on the ground. When it comes to the feet, he is obviously a work in progress, but I think Brandon Moreno here, we've seen his with his back and forth wars against Davidson Figueiredo, that he could take one to give one. He's got that Mexican fighting spirit, and I think this fight realistically just comes down to Brandon Moreno keeps it on the feet and lands the better shots in the boxing. He doesn't throw a ton of kicks. I think it's a recipe for disaster here for Taira. I think Brandon Moreno outboxes him. I think he's going to be a little bit careful with Taira shooting into his legs, but I think Brandon's going to be able to do a good enough job to keep this one on the feet. He's going to put up more volume than Taira, and we've seen with both of these opponents, both of these guys recently, there's one similar opponent in Brandon Royval, and I think when you look at that fight that Brandon Moreno was coming off of his title loss to Pantoja, I think his head wasn't quite in that fight. I think he lost purely down to lack of activity and the fact that he was coming off that title loss. And I think since you kind of look back to Albazi performance along with the Steve Erceg performance, he looks like the Brandon Moreno of old. High volume, fighting behind a jab, very technical, and I think he believes in himself a little bit more. Whereas you look at Taira, still only 25. I think he's still got kind of levels to improve in his game, especially in the striking. And I think Brandon Moreno, the former champ here, is going to be too much for him. And obviously, Viva Mexico, you know what it's up. And we're going to make him the dog of the week this week. Video coming out later on in the week as well. Little sneak peek behind the curtain. Brandon Moreno, dog of the week this week. I said I wasn't going to do it, Carlos, but I did it.
You did it.
And next up, we have Jan Blachowicz taking on Bogdan Guskov. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I know you're going to probably look at me weird for this, but I am going to go with the 42 years young Jan Blachowicz to get it done. I think that he's going to attack the leg. He's going to soften up Guskov, I think, on the feet. Guskov has some weird angles that he throws punches from. He doesn't throw a lot of kicks. Or if any, but he does tilt his body in weird angles to throw the punches. And I do think even though Jan is going to be, pretty technical with being straight with him and throwing his overhands, throwing some hooks, I do feel that he throws the shorter punches, the straighter punches. And I think along with attacking the leg, if he wants to take Guskov down or if Guskov even wants to take down Blachowicz, I think his ground game is going to be also a little bit higher level than Guskov. So I feel that it all depends on how can he hurt Guskov's leg. And I feel that he's going to do that. He's going to come and attack that lead leg. So I think he's going to get it done. And, even though he's 42 in his last couple of fights, he's been hit. And it doesn't really seem to have phased him. So maybe Blachowicz is just getting stronger now that he's at 205 and he's filling out. He doesn't seem to take punches and not take them well. It doesn't really seem to affect him. So I'm going to go with Blachowicz. Even leg kicks doesn't really seem to affect him at 205. So I'm going to go with Blachowicz to get it done. If he can keep a steady work rate and not just sit there and eat some shots, which defensively he's usually pretty sound, I'll go with Blachowicz all day in this one.
Yeah, legendary Polish power. What a guy. But we're going to go with Guskov over here. I do like Blachowicz. I think his time is up. 42 years old at 205. I don't really trust it at this point. Obviously, we've seen with Carlos Ulberg, I think that that was a very close back and forth fight. And like Carlos said, he does a great job of chewing up people's legs. And I think that that's definitely a path to victory here against Guskov. But I just think Guskov's been on a run. I think that he needs to just land that one shot. He seems to have that one-hitter quitter at this point. I think he's found faith in his hands. He seems measured, can mix in wrestling. I think he's really one of these guys that when you look in there and look at some of his fights, he's believing in himself. He believes that he's supposed to be there. He can hit very, very hard. And I think with Blachowicz that he is going to be measured, but I do think that Guskov at some point is going to be able to find the chin. I don't necessarily know if he's going to put him out, but I don't really a believer in the Polish power at this point. I think he's more of a get in there, get paid. I know I'm at the end of my career, have a back and forth sort of sparring match with people if they'll oblige. I don't think Guskov's going to oblige. I think he'll get in his face and look for the knockout. I don't think that Blachowicz carries that same power he used to at his age, and I think that Guskov's going to find the chin. So give me the youngster to get it done. And next up, we have Peyton Talbot taking on Henry Cejudo. Carlos, another youngster versus a veteran here. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to go with Talbot in this one. And I know that, you got the Olympic wrestling gold medalist, fantastic wrestling. Okay. He wrestles very well for MMA as well. But for some reason, since moving up to 135, he's been having a hard time taking guys down. And I think it's just the size issue, because that seems to be it in all of his fights. Is the size of the guy. He's having a hard time taking them down. And even when he gets to takedown, he's having a hard time keeping some of the guys down. Now, the guy that he had a hard time keeping down once he got him down was Merab. But, even in that fight, Merab looked significantly bigger than Cejudo. So it was apparent that if, Merab were to scramble, he's going to get back to his feet. Nothing Cejudo's going to do about it. Talbot, tall kid, good size. He can hit. I just feel that he's making strides in his grappling. Now, you don't have to be an Olympian to stuff an Olympian from taking you down. You just have to know exactly what you need to do, what to control, where to post. You know what I mean? And I think he's starting to learn that. And along with some long strikes, I feel that he's going to be able to get this done. So he can strike decently, but he's got to come in close range to get it done. And I just don't see him being able to do that without getting touched up by Talbot. If he's going to do any bit of striking, Cejudo, it's got to be from a ground and pound position. He's got to have top control. And if you're going to strike on Talbot from the top, I think that gives him enough of an opening, just that little gap that he needs to get back to his feet if he goes down. So I'm going to take Talbot. I think if he gets taken down, he could scramble to get back up. And I think on the feet, he's going to open up on Cejudo.
Yeah, 2 for Peyton Talbot here. I quite agree. And I think that the size discrepancy here is going to be too much. I pretty much agree with everything Carlos said. So a pretty short breakdown here from me. I just don't really see a way that Cejudo is going to be able to get this fight to the ground and control Talbot with his high-level wrestling. And when it comes to the striking, I think that's where Talbot's going to thrive. Heavy forward pressure, which is also going to make it difficult for Cejudo to get the wrestling going when he's being backed up. And I think that Talbot showed in his previous fight against Felipe Lima, obviously not the high-level wrestler that we'd expect, but at the same time, he showed an ability to be able to keep the fight on the feet, showed improvements in the wrestling, showed that he's taking the grappling serious. And he looks, again, like I said with Guskov, that a guy that he's really feeling himself right now. He's confident in his abilities. He went back to the drawing board after that Barcelos loss and really sort of addressed some of his weaknesses. And I think that he's kind of a guy that's building here. And I think that Henry Cejudo's on his decline, 38 years old, undersized for the division. And he's really just collecting a paycheck to me at the end of his career, along with Jan Blachowicz. Send them both to the retirement home. This is a New Jack City. Peyton Talbot getting the victory here for the youngsters again.
Don't you ever put Jan in that position, collecting a paycheck.
And next up, we have the co-main event here for UFC 321. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button as we break down Joshua Van taking on Alexandre Pantoja. Great fight. Carlos, who are you going with?
I know I'm very high on Joshua Van. This could be just a little too much too quickly. And it's not that he's not meant to be there. I think Van he's a very talented striker, very talented boxer. I'd love to see him mix in more kicks. I think that his anti-wrestling is very good. He can stay on his feet. He can get back to his feet. I've actually seen him take somebody down in the clinch, but he didn't stay down. He got back to his feet. It was just, this guy's trying to take you down. I'm going to stay up. And when he saw the opening, he went for the takedown as well. So he doesn't want to be down there, even if he can get you there. But Pantoja, he can't stay in front of him and just throw looping strikes. He can't do that because Van's going to open up on him. and Van is very accurate, and he's got fantastic economy of strikes. He's not going to throw something that's not going to land. He throws something, he knows it's going to land, whether it's a clean shot on the chin or a shot to the shoulder, to the body. He's going to throw it. It's going to have some impact. And Pantoja can't stand there. But what he can do is what he's been doing in his last couple of fights against some big strikers is strike just enough to get inside and look for the takedown. Van's going to give you some resistance. Pantoja is the type of guy that wants that resistance, and he's going to push right through it. He's a mean little pit bull, and he's going to take him down, and that's where he's going to get a lot of that work done. Can Van get back up? Probably, but a lot of guys have struggled to get back up. He loves to attack your post. He loves to attack, once you get to a hip, he's already changing positions to get, the more advantageous one. So I'm going to go with Pantoja to get it done. I think this will probably end in a submission. I don't think he's going to stand there and get into a brawl for all with them in the middle of the ring. What I do think he's going to do is he's going to be smart about it, not take too many shots. He's going to get him to the ground, and maybe by round 3, he's probably going to look for a submission there.
Yeah, this one to me is tough. Great fight. Obviously, the current champ Pantoja has not lost a fight since 2020, and even then, obviously, a questionable performance there from Askarov with the wrestling. But Joshua Van, man, he's been on an absolute ascendancy. He's looked fantastic, apart from that one little blemish there where he had that uppercut loss, knockout to Charles Johnson. And the guy is fantastic. If you see in every single fight, 24 years old, always showing improvements, great boxing, high pace, great at scrambling as well, tough to hold down. He's really shown an ability to improve, and I think that he's definitely deserving of this title shot here. And I'm actually going to pick him. I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I think it's 50-50, and you're getting almost 2-1 money here on Joshua Van for the upset. And I think that realistically, Pantoja relies a lot on the wrestling, and I think that the cardio of Joshua Van is going to hold up pretty well here, and I think that he can land the damaging shots to wear down Pantoja on the feet. He's going to do a good job of scrambling. I don't think Pantoja is going to be able to hold him down for long enough periods here to be able to win rounds. I think Joshua Van eventually in late rounds 4 and 5 is going to be able to take over with the striking. Great boxing. His ability to really work the body as well, I think, is definitely going to be a weapon here. And I think realistically this fight is a coin flip. If Pantoja is able to get the wrestling going and really wear on Joshua Van, I think he can have all the success and keep his belt. But I do think that Joshua Van does a good enough job of being able to scramble. And I think that the boxing here is going to be enough. When you look at Pantoja, he throws looping shots at times, which I think is going to be give openings for Joshua Van. And I do think that Pantoja relies heavily on the wrestling at this point. So with that wrestling comes a lack of cardio late in the 4th and 5th. And I think Van is going to be able to take over late in this fight. So give me Joshua Van, the 24-year-old, to get this one done here as the underdog. And new Joshua Van, almost said bantamweight, flyweight champion. And that brings us to the main event here for UFC 321. We've got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Piotr Yan 2. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Hard not to take Merab. The guy's a cardio machine. I'm gonna go with Merab to get it done, but that saying that has been going around. It's like, you get 30% better as a champion, but Merab has gotten better. He's gotten a lot better, and his striking is starting to improve. Doesn't mean you could stand with Peter Yan. You're gonna have to do the same thing, throw a few strikes, take it to the ground. Peter Yan's got to stay composed. He's got to be able to feel comfortable in uncomfortable positions in the grappling area, because that's what happened. His frustration led to him getting tired, led to him look like he was falling apart in that fight. Now, Jan's got the cardio to keep up with Dvalishvili, and so do many of the guys in that division. The problem is the frustration of keep getting taken down and keep getting taken down. And I like how Jan looked against Song Yadong. He looked like the Jan Blachowicz of old with some very good grappling. I'm not saying it's good enough grappling to make this a war, but what I do think is this fight's going to be a little bit harder than the last fight they had was. I think that he was able to demoralize Peter Yan, and he was able to get the decision that way, because there was times where it looked like he was given that, what do they call it, 1,000-mile stare, and he was like, I don't know if I'll be able to stop this guy or get him off me. I don't think that's the same Yan we're going to see, but I do think it's the same Merab we're going to see. And I think he's going to have a little bit better striking. And I think that he's going to keep taking him down and keep taking him down, and he's going to get to the decision that way. I think it's going to be a tough fight, but I'm going to go with Merab. I think he's going to. I mean, it's hard to go against him at this point right now. The guy's pushing the pace. Guys are falling apart. Like I said, I love Peter Yan. He's one of my favorites, but I don't think he has that. I don't think it's going to be hard to find somebody. The only guy I think has it is, oh my goodness, Umar. I think Umar is going to be able to keep up with him. I think Umar needs to find a pace. I can't wait to see that second fight. But for right now, I'm going with Merab. I think he's going to get it done.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't understand how you can pick against Merab at this point, but I will say out of the people that Merab's fought, obviously the game plan against Petr Yan in the first fight was shoot 49 attempted takedowns and get 11 of them, but landing 202 strikes along with 147 significant strikes. But the volume and the pace and the cardio of Merab in that fight was something to behold. And I think that he really just gave Petr Yan so much to think about. He really struggled to get his own offense going. And I just don't know how you really prepare for Merab. So obviously I am going to pick him here. But I do think that Petr Yan obviously has now got his swagger back a little bit, obviously coming off of 3 straight victories. But again, it's opponents I kind of expect him to beat. You know, Song Yadong obviously looking good in that one, showing off some grappling, showing his, his boxing and his ability to kind of build into fights, which we've seen with Petr Yan in his previous ones. Obviously, his win over Davidson Figueiredo, but I kind of question where Figueiredo is at in terms of his, kind of ceiling at this point, and his victory over Marcus McGee as well. I kind of expect him to beat Marcus McGee there. He was a reasonable size favorite. And I just don't really see what changes from the first fight unless Yan is able to sting Merab on the feet and really find something that really backs Merab up and gets the respect. I think it's going to be rinse and repeat. Merab's going to come in here, push a pace, and really just keep shooting for takedowns. I think his striking's improved. I think his cardio's only going to get better. Give me the current champ and still here, Merab Dvalishvili. And that's what we have time for here on the Ground and Pound podcast, a full 14-card breakdown here of UFC 321. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And before we wrap things up, Carlos, what do you want to say to the people?
Just want to say, hope you guys enjoyed the content here. I hope you got all the information you need to make your picks, and see you on the next one.
Catch you.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Amen, brother. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.